So coming off of the end of the previous chapter, we saw Noritoshi taking on Naoya by himself, and we were getting a lot of death flags for Noritoshi here. Until in the final panel of the last chapter, these two random guys show up, screaming sumo and katana. And I speculated that maybe they're ancient sorcerers from the Kamo clan that have been reincarnated for the culling game here, and I was definitely wrong, at least about the Kamo clan stuff. And coming into the beginning of this chapter, we're getting their backstory for the most part. So the guy with the mustache's name is Daido Hagane, and we see him running around like the Sakurajima colony looking for a katana. He winds up having no luck finding one, at least not at that point. And we come to what's going on with the sumo guy, and his name is Rokujushi Mio, and he's just going around asking like everyone he meets to have a sumo match with him. And of course nobody wants to, until he randomly hears like sumo playing on TV in this old lady's house, and he busts in there and asks like where they are and finds out that they're in Tokyo. So then he decides to go to Tokyo, but he seems to have like Zoro's sense of direction, winds up going the wrong way. But it's good because that leads us to where we were at the end of the previous chapter, with these two guys showing up coincidentally at the same time. So this means that they're not together, and this is all just one big coincidence. Hey, also guys, if you like my Jujutsu Kaisen content, please subscribe if you haven't already. It's fine if you don't want to, but if you just need a reminder, here you go. Thanks. But we're coming back to Noritoshi taking on Naoya, but Maki suddenly comes back and chops off a piece of Naoya's arm. And Noritoshi's like, it hasn't even been 3 minutes. And she's like, oh, sorry, but I'm impatient. And Noritoshi's like, I should make Maki leave the barrier as soon as possible. It's obvious that she hasn't fully healed. So this is in reference to the previous chapter, because that's why Noritoshi was taking on Naoya by himself in the first place. Maki took some serious damage from Naoya after getting like hit by him at Mach 3 speed. And while they were having like a sidebar in the previous chapter, Noritoshi said, the way things are going, we'll both die. I suspect you've suffered internal damage. A brief rest won't be enough. And Maki's like, no, I'm fine. I'm not bluffing, trust me, but I need time. I can heal my injuries. Give me 5 minutes. And that revealed that, I guess the heavenly restriction that Maki has not only gives her like superhuman speed and strength and reflexes and all that stuff, but also super healing as well. So the plan was for Noritoshi to take on Naoya for at least 5 minutes while also staying alive so that she could heal, but as we see here, he couldn't even really last 3 minutes. But then Daido, the katana guy, comes into the picture, and for some reason Maki's sword like leaves her hands and like travels to the hands of Daido. And then we get some exposition on Daido, where it says he's a nameless reincarnated master swordsman without peer. He's an outlaw among players who can wield a blade but not cursed energy. It wasn't cursed energy that overwhelmed the other four. It was something that had surfaced when he acquired a katana. Sheer lethality. And then he does like this powerful slash at Naoya. And right here we can tell that, yeah, this guy is no joke. So this is like really interesting, right? Because we've never really seen a character like this yet. We only really kind of got introduced to like powerful non-cursed energy users with like heavenly restriction with Toji and Maki. But now it appears that this guy maybe has something similar to heavenly restriction, I guess. As to where I guess his power exclusively comes from him being able to use like a sword, rather than just like full-blown heavenly restriction that makes you like a superhuman in exchange for not having any cursed energy. Even to the point of where like we'll find out that he can't even see curses. Then he looks at Maki's sword and he says, a demonic sword? The katana chooses its wielder, huh? So I guess this is in reference to the sword like leaving Maki's hands and going into his hands. And since he can't use cursed energy, I don't think that's like his ability or something doing that. It's kind of implying that the sword itself willingly went into his hand. And it's possible because of like how the sword was made, maybe. In chapter 149, when Mai was like talking to Maki for the final time in like their own little domain or wherever they were, she said, you probably already understand my curse technique. I can make anything big or complicated. I'm heavily injured from his cuts, referring to Ogi, their father. And she says, so once I make this, I'll die. Exactly what happens, and we see Maki wind up with this sword here. So maybe this has some kind of interesting ability to it possibly, or maybe there's like an aspect of Maki in it, and this sword has like a personality now, possibly, and it's going to Daido, not necessarily because it's like choosing him as like its new owner, but maybe to show Maki how to get better possibly, because I think that's the other theme of this chapter, aside from just pleasant coincidences. It's like Maki's chapter to improve, or the next 2 or 3 chapters will be that. Or the sword went to Daido simply because it knew that it would be able to kill Naoya, thus, you know, helping out Maki in the process, but I guess that achieves the same purpose as the former anyway. So Daido is like swinging at Naoya, and he has him on the ropes at this point. And he says to Maki, "Girl, there's something there, right? Some kind of Ayakashi," which is like some kind of water yokai or something. I guess this is just what they referred to curses as back in the day. It still remains to be seen exactly what time this guy comes from. Could be 400 years ago, could be 1,000 years ago, and everywhere in between. But Maki's like, "You can't see it?" And he says, "Can I see it, you ask?" "No, but if I see everything else, then it's the same as if I am seeing it." So I guess this means that he's just such a master of the sword and his senses that it doesn't really matter if he can literally see Naoya or not. The fact that everything else is so amplified to him that he can still sense the presence of Naoya for the most part. Kind of like what was going on with Toji and Heavenly Restriction, but I guess different yet the same, which is also what's going on with Maki. And then he just straight up cuts Naoya in half. Like, this is insane. Like, this guy is ridiculously powerful. Like, he would probably be considered special grade at this point, right? And Maki's like, "What was that? My attacks didn't do that. If I see everything else, what is it that I'm not seeing? What's the difference between me and that guy?" And we see reincarnated Toji, because that's like the only context that she really has for him. So I guess this is implying that Maki hasn't like completely unlocked the full power of Heavenly Restriction yet, which is something we've been talking about these last couple chapters, because obviously Maki still has a lot of growth left to her. And while she did seem like completely overpowered coming out of, destroying the Zenin clan, it still was only just the beginning for what she's ultimately going to attain here, which I guess is just eventually surpassing Toji. And then in the final panels, we see the sumo guy Mio come behind Maki, and he seemingly activates a simple domain that is also like a sumo ring. And that's where the chapter ends. So I guess this guy is going to have a sumo match with Maki, which is understandable because we saw her use like a sumo move against Naoya in chapter 151. Although it wasn't successful, it still was Maki like showing that she's somewhat familiar with sumo. So what I'm thinking is going to happen here is this guy is going to help Maki get stronger, whether intentionally or unintentionally. It doesn't seem like this guy's like a full-blown villain or heel, to be honest. It looks like he just wants a challenge. And I wouldn't be surprised if, Maki winds up realizing what she needs to through this match. Not completely. I mean, obviously there's still some sword stuff left, but speaking of that, I guess Daido is going to continue to fight against Naoya, but I don't think he's going to kill him, because this is like Maki's victory for sure, right? So she kind of needs to get that one. And like we've been talking about these last couple chapters as well, I think this is like now his middle stage. So he still has like his third and final big ultimate form that's gonna have like wings or something maybe. And then at that point, maybe he kills Daido or something. And then on his deathbed, I don't know, he gives Maki the secret to going to the next level, or it's possible that she just realizes what needs to be done to get to that point through whatever transpires with Daido being defeated by Naoya in combination with her taking on Mio here. But yeah, that's where I see this headed for the most part. And it just ultimately ends with full power Maki taking out full power Naoya. But let me know what you think about this chapter in the comments, guys. And if you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.